Hello everyone, in this video we will see how we can create REST API using Nodejs and MongoDB. So to start with, as a first step, you need to install Nodejs to your local machine. Now in my case, I already installed Nodejs, and as a next step, you will require to install this npm install express generator. -G stands for global. Now in my case, I have installed both the steps. First I have created or I have installed Node.js in my local machine, as well as I have installed this express generator to my local machine. So I will start directly with the third step. In order to do with this third step, we will be using the express framework. So here I'll say express, and that will create, again that is just a typo, so here I'll say express, and that will create an application ready for us. Now as a next step, I will require to install the chorus. So here I'll say npm install I'll say chorus and save. Now that chorus stands for cross origin resource sharing. I want to allow my application or my API to be called from any URL. So I'll need to install the chorus. Now as a third step, I will be using Mongoose. We can connect MongoDB with our node application in two ways. One, we can use that MongoDB drivers. You can see official more about this MongoDB drivers on its official documentation, as well as we can even use this Mongoose. Now Mongoose is a third-party package which we can use to connect our node application to MongoDB. In our case, we will be using this Mongoose. Why we are using Mongoose? Because Mongoose will allow us to create a schema. With the help of schema, we can manage our database in some structural way, or you can say if we want to write some logic or some validation, then that schema will be useful. We will see how that schema will be useful later in this video. So as a third step, what I'll do is, here I'll use npm install mongoose, and I'll say --save. That will install the Mongoose package in our existing Node.js application. Now as a last step, we need to install all the dependency by writing npm install. So on my command prompt, I will use npm install. That will install all the dependency of our package.json file. It is the last adjustment that will require to start before the demo. So done, we have installed all the local dependencies to our package.json. Now we are ready to go with the demo. So now if I open up my application with my IDE, Visual Studio Code, and if I open this package.json, you can see we have installed that chorus, cross origin resource sharing, and Mongoose package. So this both packages is installed in our package.json file. So as a first step, what I'm going to do is I'll connect MongoDB with its connect method. So here I will say create a new file, and I'll name it to db connection. So here I'll say db connection.js, and inside that db connection I will import first, on my first line I'll say mongoose, and that is require, and I'll say import it from mongoose package. So here I'll say mongoose, and as a second step I'll create another variable and I'll name it to URL, and that URL will point to my MongoDB server. So now first let me start our MongoDB server. So first I'll open up my command prompt and I'll run that command prompt as an administrator. So here I will be using this command prompt as an administrator, and inside this command prompt I'll write a command MongoD --db path and the path till my database. Now that will start my MongoDB server, and as you can see, my MongoDB server is up and running on the port number 27017. So now here on our application I can use that URL. So here I'll say MongoDB, so MongoDB : / and here I'll say localhost, and the port number would be 27017, and demo1 is the name of my database. I already have created a database with the name of demo. Now what I can use this Mongoose instance. So here I'll say Mongoose, and I'll be using that connect method. Now that connect method will require the URL on which database you want to make a connection. So as a first argument I'll be passing URL. As a second argument it will be required use new URL parcel, and I'll say it to true. And then as a third argument it will be using a callback. So here I'll say function, and inside that function I will be using that error, and here inside that function I'll be checking with the errors. So here I'll say if there is an error, console.log, and inside that console.log I'll write error in connecting database, and else if there is not any error I'll say console.log, and I'll say connected. So this is the DB connection, and I want to use the same instance this outside this DB connection.js. So here what I can use, module.exports, and here I'll be exporting my Mongoose object. So that will be the same instance throughout our Node.js application. Now as a next step, I will be using this instance on my model file, and inside my model file I'll be creating the schema. So now on my directory structure I'll create another folder, and I'll name it to models. Even you can give any name. So inside that model I will create my product.js file. So here I'll say product.js file. Why I name it to product? Because I am inserting, or I am working with the products data, or you can say with the products collection. So here I'll say inside this product.js file I will first import the db connection.js, because inside that db connection.js file we have already created a connection with our MongoDB. So here I'll say constant, and I'll say db is equals to require, and I'll say go and import my object from that db connection.js file. So here I'll say db connection.js, and now I'll be creating my first schema, or first you can say a model. So here I'll say const, and I'll say product schema, and I'll be using this db instance, and I'll say db dot schema, and inside that schema I'll be create one JavaScript object. So here we will define the properties, or you can say the column names which you want to store as a collection inside your database, inside your table. So here I'll be saying, okay, the first property I want to create is a name, which is a type of string. So here I'll say type of string, and another validator I'll be putting on is required. So here I'll say required, and I'll make it to true. So what happens is, whenever you insert any new document inside this product collection, it will check, it should have the name property as a compulsory, because we have here written required to true. And as a second property, I'll create a price, and here I'll say type of number. So here I'll say type of number, and again I'll make it to required, and I'll say it to true. So this both properties are must. This is how you can use the schema to provide some basic structure for your collection. It make this two property, name and price, compulsory whenever you insert any new document in your collection. Now, as a third step, again I want to use this created schema on my router or on my database queries. So here I'll say module dot exports, and I'll saying Mongoose, or you can say db dot model, and that model I'll be giving a name of my model, and you can give any name. So in my case I'll be giving it a product is the name of my collection, and as a second argument I'll be saying use this product schema to create or to run this product collection. So now your first step is create the dbconnection.js file, and your second step is create the model or schema. So these two steps are done. Now as a third step, we will write our logic, means our queries. So now as a third step, we will set our routes. So now if I navigate to this routes, and I'll create a new route for my products collection. So I'll say product underscore router, and I'll .js file, and here I'm using that express framework. So here I'll say where express, and I'll be require that express. So here I'll say express, and as a next I'll be creating the instance of my router. So here I'll say express dot router, and as a third step I will require my model. So here I'll say require, and inside that require I'll be say import my model from models folder and product.js. So now what I'll check, here I'll write my first method. So here I'll check if the request of the user is a type of post. So here I'll say router.post, and there is nothing inside URL. So I'll show you how you can call the REST API via the URL. Then I'll be saying that callback, and inside this callback I'll be say request, response, and a next. Now inside this post method, what I'm going to do, I'll create the instance or object of this product model. So now here I'll say create the object which is a type of product, and I'll assign it new product. So that model which we have created inside our product.js file will give us a constructor. So here inside my constructor I will create the first object which is a type of product. Remember, in that product model we have created two properties. One is a name and the another one is a price. So here I'll say name, and I'll assign it a value of request.body.name. This is the value which you are passing from your body. So here I'll say price, and again I'll be saying request.body.price. So these two fields or these two properties which user passed as a body. Now as a next step I will create or I will call the save method which comes with a Mongoose. So here I'll say this product instance, I need to store this product inside my MongoDB database. So here I'll be using that save method, and it will return us the callback. So here I'll be using function, and that function having two arguments. One is the error and the another one is a result. So what I'll do here, I'll check if there is error in saving my document to the collection. So here I'll say response.json and return as the whatever the error is. Else, if there isn't any error, then we will return a JSON object back to the user. So here I'll say result. So now we have set up DB connection, models and our routes. We have set everything. Now as a last step, we need to go to our app.js. This is the first file which will execute whenever user will request to your backend server. So here I'm using that chorus. So we are writing where chorus equals to require, and I'll say chorus, and I need to use it on line number 19. So I write app.use and chorus. Now that will make, or that will enable our backend to cross origin resource sharing. Now as a next step, I will import my router here. So I will say products and I'll say require, and I'll point it to my router file. So here I'll say go and import routes from my product router. And here inside this app.js file, if user will write a path like this, here on my notepad I'll say localhost :3000/products. Then I need to navigate this request to my product router. If user will write localhost 3000 and user, then I will redirect this request to my user router. So I will register these routes on my app.js. So here I'll say app.use, and if user write this products on its URL, then redirect it to product routes. This is how our routes will come into the picture. So now from this app.js, my request will redirect to this product router, and here we have written the post method, or we can say a create method to store our document inside your MongoDB. Now to run this application, I will open up the integrated terminal which comes within my IDE. So here I would be writing npm start. Now this is the command which is required to start our Node.js server. Again, it is giving us an error. So let me check for the error first. Now again, here it is saying product router.js on line number 9. I have done some mistake over there. So let me just set or change it, and I'll be back when it. So over here, we have used this equal to instead of the colon. So now I save this, and now if rerun it on my server, npm start, and that will run my Node.js server. So now if you can see, your Node.js server is up and running, and on your console, the console is connected. That is on our db.connection.js, it got succeed to connect to our MongoDB server. So now what I'll do, I'll open up the browser, and here I'll write localhost 3000. You can see our server is up and running. So now again we need to create a document first. So I'll be using the Postman to create the post request. So I'll be opening up that Postman, and then I'll use the Postman. So on my Postman, I will make a post request. So here I'll say localhost 3000, and the URL for my products collection is products, and then I'll be passing headers. So here I'll say add, I'll say accept, and I'll write it a value of application JSON, and as a second header I'll say content type, and I'll pass application JSON. And inside my body I will create the first document to insert inside my products collection. So here I'll be creating the first document, and here I'll say inside the curly brackets I would say name, and I'll assign it to foo, and as a second column or second property I'll set price, and I'll assign it to 50. Now if I make this request to my server, if everything is correct, it will return us back the inserted object. So now here if I navigate over here, you can see our first document is inserted to my database, and it has returned us ID back. Now this ID is auto generated, and it will be used to identify this document uniquely from your collection. As a second step, we will navigate to our application and create a method to fetch all the documents from our collection. So now here on my router I will create another method, and here I'll check router dot get. Now this request is type of get, and inside this get I'll be checking for URL. There should be nothing inside URL except localhost 3000/products. And as a second argument, as you know, we need to use this callback. So it has a 3 argument: request, response, and a next. Now inside that function callback I will be using my product instance of that model. So here I'll be saying that product dot find. Now find is a method which comes with a Mongoose that will return us the number of records or number of documents inside the collection. So now inside this find I'll be saying find every record, so I'm not passing any criteria, and inside that find I'll be using the callback function. So here inside the find it will return us the error if it hasn't got an error to connect with MongoDB, and if it got succeed, it will return us the document. So here I'll say docs. Now I'll say if there is an error, response.json, response will be returned back to the user. So here I'll say return us the error, whatever the error is, else if it got succeed, then return us the exact documents. So here I'll say return the documents. And now if I stop my Node.js server and rerun it, so here I'll say npm start, and everything is correct. Then if we navigate to our browser in make and get request, here I'll say products. Now remember, this is first navigate to app.js file, then app.js file identify it's a routes for a product router, then it will redirect you to the products router. Now inside your products router you have used that router. So now this request is a type of get, and now if everything is correct, it will return us your object back. So inside this collection you have 2 objects or 2 documents already there. Now as a third step, I will create a delete method inside my router. So here I'll be using router.delete, and inside the delete I would say that path would require the ID. So now the path will be look like this: localhost, and I would say 3000, and then products, that would be the name of my router, and that will require some key. Now this key is that auto generated key, because I want to delete a document by its key. So here Now inside this id, inside this delete, I'll be using that callback method, and as you know that callback has a 3 argument: request, response and next. Now inside this delete method, I would be calling that product and delete. Now this delete has a multiple option. You can use delete many, delete one, find id and delete, find one and delete. As whatever your requirement, you can use that method. In my case, I will be using this delete one method. Now this delete one method requires an condition or an object. So here I'll be saying I want to delete my record with the id. So here I'll be saying request dot params. Now this is the params or id which we pass as an URL, and as a second argument I'll be using that callback, and as you all know that callback having 2 arguments. So this function is like error and the result. So now inside this callback function, I'll check for error first. So here I'll say if there is an error, response back user with an error, and if there isn't any error, response back the user a result, how many record or how many documents it has deleted. And now if I stop my Nodejs server and again I'll say npm start, and if everything is correct, I'll be able to run my delete query on my Postman. So here on my Postman, if I navigate to this, instead of the get, I'll be copying this id because I want to delete this record, and now I'll go to this delete, and inside this URL I will pass the id. And now if I hit the send button and if everything is correct, it will delete the record. As you can see, it has passed the number of deleted record to 1. And now if I go to this get request again, and if I make the get call, you can see we have only 1 record. So we succeeded with the delete. And the last thing that I want to show you, we have used the schema. Why we have used this Mongoose? We will make a post request, and here I'll create an object. Inside my body I'll create an object, and that object I'll remove the property price. And now if I hit the send, it will give us an error because remember we have made that price as a compulsion field. So this is why we have used this Mongoose. I hope you like the video and it will be helpful to you. If you like, do not forget to subscribe my YouTube channel.